Start off with Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. No, sir.
Chip, you all set? Good to go? Okay, we'll open the item number 3. Anyone who would like to make public comment regarding any non-agenda items, please come on up to the table and join us.
Raise your hand.
I just wanted to thank the mayor for your comments regarding the FA incident. It was really heartening to see, that leadership, especially when you don't necessarily need to. Like it was, certainly it's in the city, but it's not in your jurisdiction of things you can control. So I just wanted to thank you for, that expression. Those expressions like that really make a difference coming from leaders. So just wanted to thank you for that.
You're welcome. And I would just add, it wasn't just me, Ryer, it was, we agreed as a council for sure, and we reached out to the town at the same time, but thank you for that.
Certainly condemn incidents like that. We don't want to see them in our city.
But thank you. Is there anyone else who has any comments? No?
I'm gonna open it up to Zoom.
What's that?
Open it up to
I
Zoom.
think the Zoom
Is there
folks
one?
need to be invited.
Anyone on our Zoom call who would like to make any public comments? Execs, think about it. No, I guess we're good. Okay, thanks, Zach. All right, we're going to move on to item number 4, which is the final reading and adoption of our ordinance to regulate vehicle noise.
Thank you. We presented a package that has the new ordinance to be, or really added to our ordinances, the vehicular noise ordinance. It would be created as a chapter in Title 17, which regulates vehicles and traffic. And that's pages 1 through 3. Pages 4 through 5 would be, 4 through 6 would be technical corrections that would have to also be performed because we do have an existing noise section in the ordinance, so we would have to pull all the vehicle-related items out of that if we're creating a new section that's just about vehicles. So you got 3 pages of the new ordinance and then 3 pages of some things that would be struck out of the existing noise chapter because they're now in the new ordinance that's being considered. If you remember, we started out with a purpose, linking excessive and disturbing noise to something that could hurt the public health, safety, and welfare. There's some definitions: plainly audible, sound amplification system, motor vehicle, of course. And as you remember, our council, used some commonly used definitions of plainly audible that are used in the field in noise ordinances like this. When it gets to the restricted uses and activities, motor vehicle sound equipment is specifically mentioned. There are exceptions to that, mostly having to do with public safety or city operations, or there's an allowance for the testing of installing sound amplification systems, so that there are some cases when you'll be able to turn that up to make sure it works. And that would be an exception to this ordinance. Mufflers, basically saying every vehicle has to be equipped with a good working muffler, and it's unlawful to make certain modifications listed in the ordinance to your exhaust system. Vehicular noise, and this section really has a lot to do with the way you're driving the vehicle, the misuse of the power system to exceed the tire traction limits. Got some technical basically laying down rubber, peeling rubber would be prohibited under this ordinance. Braking operations that create noise, rapid acceleration, rapid deceleration, loud downshifting, racing, of course, would also be covered as a prohibited activity. Penalties would be $150 for the first offense, $300 for the second, $500 for each additional offense after that, all within a 12-month period of the first in succession. It would be a civil ordinance.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, tried to do the quick paraphrasing there.
Anyone have any questions of Chip?
Just one quick one. Do we have to exclude trains, or is it just because we don't consider them a vehicle?
I'm not.
Just because I swear the other night it was.
Truck, moped, motorcycle, all-terrain vehicle equipped with, operated on a public street or on private property.
Okay, yep.
Plus, trains do have a federal exemption.
Yep.
If there are some archaic ways to try and get railroads to operate as a more quiet zone in your community, if trains are an issue, we could. But you know the railroads are a whole different animal.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we had to put exclusion in here for them or not.
Yeah, I think it's just to make things clear.
Yeah, I swear like 1 a.m. the other day, it was playing Baby Shark as it was going. Thought that's what I heard, but the Baby
Well,
Shark
we
song.
can make a request for a different song.
Yeah, thank you, I would appreciate that. I just want to make sure that we don't have to exclude it, because someone may come back and say, hey, what about trains? It should fit in this, and we know it does not.
Right, and I think we know trains are an issue, so it might be a good idea to make sure that they're not in here. That would have to be different.
Okay. Because Pearl Street does complain about the train.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know, that's
Yeah.
an issue.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Chip? Okay, so this is final reading. We would take a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Chad, seconded by Jim. Any further discussion, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No opposition, the motion passes. Chip, thanks for your work on that.
Thank you.
Let's go on to item number 5, which is consider an authorization of pilot ARPA project for neighborhood stabilization. Dom?
City's long struggled with how to deal with distressed properties. Many of these are in violation of our life safety code, public health safety ordinance. We're able to get somewhat of a response when it's a non-owner occupied commercial property. And they eventually respond to the funds. Where we struggle is the owner-occupied units who fall into distress. And, you know, it's the old saying, you can't get blood from the stone. And I think the ARPA program offers a unique opportunity to address this problem, which has long been vexing to us, is how do we fix up these houses that are affecting everybody else in the neighborhood's quality of life, public health, safety, etc. But do so in a way that is responsibly with taxpayer dollars. The ARPA program, I think, is hand in glove for this type of program within a qualified census tract. Language and rules out of Treasury talks about building strong communities through investments in housing and neighborhoods, providing housing services to support healthy living environments and neighborhoods conducive to mental and physical wellness, and emergency assistance for home repairs, weatherization, and other needs. Treasury will, quote, presume these services are eligible when provided to families living in qualified census tracts. The city's qualified census tract begins on the western side of Main Street and extends to the western boundary of the city. And so we're proposing to do a pilot. We'd like to do one house and learn some lessons along the way that might allow it to be expanded into a broader program, if successful and with council approval. I'd ask for up to 12.5, and we propose to structure it as a 50% grant and a 50% loan payable upon transfer of the property, with the city's interest protected in the lien. So I've given you some sample properties, the type of thing we're talking about. None of these are in St. Albans. The one that's most apt is on the back of the memo, I think, and so using that as a visual. The city approaches the property owner. Dear John Doe, as you know, we've been trying to get you to clean up your property for the last 5 years. You have the following violations. We got a deal for you. We'll fix it up for you under these terms and conditions. And you don't have to pay anything today. We stop hounding you about your violations, and you get half the cost for free, and the remainder you pay when the house sells.
And those improvements could be interior or exterior?
We've envisioned exterior. Most of that program's fines are something for the council to consider. But generally, most of our violations are external, and the internal ones are
Smoke detectors.
smoke, yeah, and they don't impact others quite as much as the external. You know, that's the type of thing I think we would learn in the first project, right? You know, should we expand this to internal and external? You know, I think, you know, your one person's code violations affect the whole neighborhood more on the outside than they do on the inside. There's certainly the health and safety issues on the inside.
How will you go about deciding on that first entity?
We've got a couple that we're in touch with right now. We've got our eye on a handful that we've been working with over the years to try to bring them into compliance.
Are any of us on that list?
Don't answer that now.
I noticed McCarthy's house needs a little shaping up there.
Hey, you know, we just got done the renovation. It's done now.
He's in the wrong district.
I got
Oh,
one.
yeah, you're not in the census
Maybe I should
tract.
smash something up and move it back to the other side of town. I did want to just, because I've gotten several questions about, you know, what are we going to do with the ARPA money, and just like put things into context that we're roughly going to receive about $2 million in those formula funds, right?
Yeah.
And you're talking about a $12,500 pilot authorization, half of which will be recoverable at the time of
Yeah.
property transfer. So
So I think what we're doing tonight is a good example of how we might respond to those funds. Is the council every year sets their annual goals and objectives, and then it's the staff's job to implement those and come up with ideas. And neighborhoods has been in the top 3, you know, for the last decade. So it's based on that we brought this proposal forward. If folks have ideas on what they would like to see, you know, set up a meeting with Chip or I, and we can, you know, evaluate it. There's a real technical review to this, you know, like this project works because it responds to the council's strategic goals and aligns with ARPA, and we can find a pathway. You know, not every, some of the best ideas we want a pathway for.
So what does that mean? So we would recoup $62.50 in 10 years, say. Is that permissible through those ARPA funds?
It looks like it is right now. You know, I think this program has a lot of potential, and it's something we could, you know, consider rolling out with non-ARPA funds at some point. If it turns out that only the grant portion of this is ARPable, then we would use redevelopment fund for the balance. So,
We've seen other proposals for ARPA funds though, that of folks who should know, that do have revolving built into them. So I think in context, it looks like revolving isn't allowed, the program income and revolving are allowed uses of the ARPA funds.
You know, after we did our sidewalk project, the 5-year sidewalk project, there's probably a half dozen to a dozen houses in the city that made dramatic improvements on their house as soon as the sidewalks were done. And I think there's some that really want to and just can't come up with the funds to do it. So this is another one of those little bump starts that, you know, you invest a little bit in the neighborhood and 2 or 3 other neighbors want to invest in their property as well. So I think it's a good use.
Chip, when you say it's not revolving is not permitted, so if we get the 6250 back, we can't recycle that?
It looks like it is permitted.
Okay.
There's a proposal that the bond bank is floating for the use of some of the state's ARPA funds, and it's built into that proposal is revolving it when it comes back around. So
Okay.
we can look another. We can take. There's some guidance we'll get from VLCT and from the federal delegation, but I think the Federal Register has said that it would be allowed to do that.
I've seen similar things like this. The assist loans that you see with people getting mortgages on their property, rehab loans through Vermont Development, Burlington Lead Paint Program. They get their money back on the sale or on a cash out refinance. A cash out refinance. On just a regular straight refinance, it's a subordination. But I wouldn't want to give this loan to somebody for $6,500 or some amount of money, then have them go get a refinance for $40,000 and go out and buy a boat.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Good point. Thank you. Any other comments? Marie?
Nope. Good.
James?
It's subordinate, it just remains in the same position, so it's not gets rolled forward.
It gets subordinated to the new bank loan.
Yeah, but it's already subordinate, right? Yeah.
Still a lien.
Yeah.
Yep. Public, any comment on this?
Yeah, I have a question, or a couple of them. So I'm curious about this is really fascinating, and I think it's exciting to help put money into housing and helping people fix up their homes. I'm curious about what is the process for collecting community input on the priorities for the use of the ARPA funds? Because it seems like there are ones that you have indicated potentially or discussed, but I'm curious if there are going to be like public forums or something that allows folks to come in and actually be able to share some of that for whom it would be relevant. And then I'm curious about, once the pilot is done, how would you identify which are there targeted houses? I guess my question is, how would you ensure an equitable process in which people could take part in getting this kind of funding? So that, and maybe we're discovering that in the pilot, but that would be something that would be of top of mind for me. Yeah.
There's a lot there. Bruce, you're welcome to stay in dialogue if you'd like. We could certainly have a forum and kick it around. I find projects like this tend to come to fruition better in a conversation where there's some give and take, you know, more of a kind of a, we call it a workout session, right? You know, we're just kicking it out. But it has to be iterative, and if you get into a public hearing, those tend to be one direction, right? You know, public, you know, to the council and staff, and that might be important. But this is really about, there's a lot of strategy analysis about how do you find a pathway forward to do something on this, you know, so that's why we've envisioned it as a conversation, you know, so if you have an idea, reach out to Chip or I and we can kick it around and talk about why why it may or may not fly. You know, I'm certainly not opposed to carving out some time in one of these sessions for the public to give us ideas, but that's generally how we've tended to operate on this type of a thing, is it percolates up to the council through the staff, and people can approach any one of us. And in terms of the,
Well, it just makes me think like, who in the community knows that we have this money that could be used to go back into the community, and for the people who it's related to, what is that? Like, I appreciate the iterative point of it. How is it? I guess my exploration is, how is there community engagement in the use and the priority of those funds outside of what seems like individual conversations, and in a way that actually brings in community members who may not come to you because they don't even know it's available, right? So I don't know if they're like what I'm missing. I think I'm just really interested in the way that people in the community are a part of this, or invited to be a part of it.
Could I, Don, I just had a couple of thoughts on that, which is that, you know, we every year go through a strategic priority setting process. And, you know, each one of us is elected basically from a neighborhood in the city, right? So
Yeah.
we're all pretty connected with the folks that are in our neighborhood and with the representative government that we have. But I think, you know, particularly the slug of ARPA money, it's different than our normal budgeting process, for instance. And so maybe there is an opportunity to do, you know, some of the visioning and the small work groups and the kind of thing that we did back when we were talking about the Main Street revitalization, what it was going to look like, and we talked about the logo in that way, so that we do get a little more direct input and invite some people in as part of that process. I mean, I'd love to see some of that, because this is kind of different. Like, I think we have a good process of priority setting, and we have a lot of priorities that have been in place for a long time that we've been chipping away at as we've had resources, but it might be good to sort of take the temperature of people and have more of that kind of give and take that Dominic was talking about.
so we can make arrangements if that's what the council wants to have. In terms of, you know, how it would be operationalized going forward, there's really interesting privacy issues at play when you talk about approaching people to say, highway to government, your house doesn't meet violations. It's so bad, we'd like to fix it up for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, what is that, so do you have that list and approach people and get a sense, like, how is it that people are a part of it? I think that feels.
Well, go ahead.
I just jump in. So what we have, so we have what's called a PHSO, Public Health and Safety Ordinance, right?
Yeah.
And they meet every week. So they are, and it's the fire chief, it's Marty Manahan, it's zoning, it's Chip, it's Kristen Smith here. They are, I would say they are well versed in where the issues are throughout the city. I mean, through not only complaints, follow-ups, you know, their visual aspect of it as well. So there is a list of, there are homes that are violating public health and safety ordinance. They've been in communication with letters and sometimes fines. So I would say that's probably the starting point, where that communication would happen. Tell me if I'm wrong, Don, but I think that's, Marty, how many are on that list now?
We're actually in pretty good shape. We've probably got maybe a dozen, 10 to 12 right now. Those change weekly, depending on what we see out in Greenbelt and stuff like that.
And there's different levels of violation, obviously.
Yeah.
Whether it's, you know, trash outside or porches falling down or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
But they're well documented. As I said, they meet weekly. So they're well versed on where those issues are. So I think, personally, I would think, without getting into the specifics that we'll have to set, I think that's a good starting point for the city to start the conversation.
Okay. Thank you, that's helpful.
Welcome. Any other comments on this? I think it was mentioned, so it's, to begin with, it's a pilot, works in progress, for sure. See how the first opportunity goes and then move forward from there. So, and you don't need anything from us? No, we do.
You do.
You need a vote?
I move that the city authorize $12,500 for a pilot using ARPA funds for neighborhood stabilization.
I'll second.
And we've received some of the ARPA funds already, right? They're here. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Nothing else from the audience? Okay. All those in favor of the motion presented regarding the neighborhood stabilization project, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. We will move on to city report, or city manager's report, number 6. Don?
Just a couple of quick hits here. We've been working on getting all our Welcome Here campaign running. We've got Euro stickers here tonight, if anybody wants to grab one. And we've got, as outlined in your packet, there's yard signs that are on the way as well. So particularly as we come off the influence of PFA, this might be particularly timely. Part of the reasoning behind this, you recall, goes back to some of the Patriot Front activity, several months ago, and the desire to try to fight speech with speech. So,
Are there gonna be different versions of that sticker, Don? Like,
Chad, we're at the end of the design process.
what I'm saying is during Pride Month, can we do the
Sure.
Pride flag?
Yeah.
That's what I'm just asking.
Yeah, absolutely.
During October, can, whatever.
It would be good to have some, it's taking forever to get things these days with
Yeah.
the supply chain issues. So
Not the wording,
it'd be good to have some.
not the font,
yeah.
just the different green, different than
Well,
green.
whatever, it'd be just good to have some heads up if we have a schedule,
Okay,
and if that'll help.
okay,
Pride Month. All right,
got it.
yeah.
Perfect.
So we have the window decals, the stickers are on their way, and the lawn signs are on their way. The these will go on windows.
Perfect. Thank you.
We're recruiting for the BEI committee. We've got 2 or 3 applicants that have sent in their materials. I forget what Kristen set as the deadline, but hopefully we can try to get some of that organized before we see you guys again, talk about your selection process. So it's underway. Lastly, we are spending a ton of staff time on neighborhoods, parking, green belts, and the interaction of all of the above. As we enforce our green belt ordinance that pushes folks out of the green belt onto the street, which then sometimes allows a neighbor who's had a long festering complaint against their neighbor to complain about their car that's now parked in front of their house that never used to be on the street, but always used to be parked illegally in the green belt. There's no easy solution. Every block is its own conflict resolution exercise. But just FYI, there's, in case some of it finds its way up to the council, there's no other way to do it than to hand sort it and figure out, okay, how do we realistically apply the winter parking ban, the green belt ordinance, and where you can park in front of your neighbor's driveway in a rational way.
So some is coming down, come my way, and one of my constituents already on a very narrow dead-end street.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the solution is there, but talk to you at some place.
Moving, I believe, is the best one, for one of the people involved in that conflict. But, you know, we've been down there a lot, and, you know, we involve the fire chiefs to be sure that emergency vehicles can get through there at all times.
He says they can't, but that, who knows?
Yeah,
Is that the street over here, Jim, off Main?
it's that way.
Oh,
No,
it's the
it's
state.
down near the city school.
Oh, okay.
You know where it is. We're never talking about 92 Chip.
We're familiar with it.
First I've heard of it, Jim.
Yeah, right.
Can you give us an indication of where the greenbelt? I think our ward, Mr. Hawkins' ward, is fairly good. I don't see much there, but where are you seeing it?
A lot of it's in Jim's ward. I don't think there's, you know, causation there, maybe some correlation. It's narrow streets, small lots, lots of cars.
But they do have, they do have off-street parking, but like you said, lots of cars.
Yeah, so, you know, I mean, talk about the government being up in your face, right? I mean, how many cars are you allowed to have? You know, we don't have a limit, right? I'm not advocating for one, but you have 4 people live in your house and every one of them has 2 cars. You don't have enough places to put them.
Or big white pickups.
Yeah. And of course, it gets right into cultural issues too, right? So, you know, it's a really hard thing to navigate.
We have 5 cars, and every time that last car in the driveway needs to move, we swear at Dominic. Because it's pull 4 cars out, move 1 car, so just the way it is.
Don't you have passes across the street?
You did.
Yeah.
Does that
You
help
only
with
have
a couple?
3, you only have 3 drivers, don't you?
No, we have 4.
Fortunately, we made our whole backyard a driveway, so we don't have an issue.
I like your driveway, Jim.
I know.
Can you follow up on a couple things?
Sure.
We had the discussion about the affiliation fee with homeowners, and that has stirred up a bee's nest. We're moving forward on that, on the deed work.
Yeah. So we had one of the paralegals go out and record all the, I don't know if they've done it yet, but we asked them to record all of the affiliation fee agreements into the deeds, just like we talked about, so that it will be captured. Did a press interview on it. I haven't seen it be publicized, but despite all the advocacy, nobody's in default. I think that's an important data point.
Okay. I think that's the only one I had. Thank you for the update. Moving on to item number 7. Consider resolution authorize the sale of 45 Kingman, better known as the courthouse, the former courthouse.
This is a proposed sale to Jim Cameron, as outlined in P&S. It's a pretty typical commercial real estate deal for the city, selling it for what we acquired for, 50 grand. We're 2 divisions, residential on the upper stories, and we'll partner on the first story to figure out what the best use is there, you know, whether it's co-working space or restaurant. Sure, the 2 leading contenders are, you know, some of the commercial use perhaps. And if we discover brownfield issues, we've got this project included in our last filing with Phso for the TIF program for brownfield cleanup. So whether we would TIF it or whether we would access some of the other grant sources that are around now, yet to be seen. But we will help with that portion of it if that comes about.
How long has that building been vacant? 15 years?
I've been here 14 and it's been vacant
Ever since.
I think I mean, the bank bought it a few years before that, because I remember Rick telling me about that transaction. It might be 20.
When was the courthouse
There
built?
hasn't been anybody in there since the state attorney left there. He was there after the court left.
Oh, he was there, they built the court on Lake Street and Hughes stayed
And
there.
he stayed there, basically his office was the old courtroom for a while.
DMV was there after, right? Or was that during that time?
Yeah, that
I
was
think
it.
The new
during that
courthouse,
time,
the new courthouse was initiated in about 1990. or something.
1990.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
So, and then I think, and then Jim left, state attorney left when he went over to the building in the
Lemnau Drive.
Lemnau Drive, yeah. I don't remember when that was, but that's the
Probably around
last,
2000.
the last tenant there that I think was in there.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
been 20 years.
yeah.
Okay.
It's in remarkably good shape for.
It's a beautiful building.
Years.
Mhm.
And Jim has a great track record. So, I mean, you can look at St. Albans House for an example.
Yeah.
Motion to authorize the sale of 45 Kingman.
Second.
And then Chad beat you, Bob.
Yeah, he's just
Chad beat you.
quiet today.
He was muffled. We have a motion and a second to approve the sale of 45 Kingman. Are there any further comments, questions? The only thing I would add is that this would not be happening if the city did not step in and initiate the initial purchase from Peoples. I think it would still be sitting idle and would be for a while to come. So kudos to you, Dom, for initiating that and making it work. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes to sell 45 Kingman Street.
Chip, I'm gonna send these around when they get to you. Don't.
Won't lose it.
All right.
Moving on to item number 7, which is, item number 8, which is final public hearing for Community Development Program Maiden Lane Housing Grant. Chip?
So part of the funding for Congress in Maine was a VCDP grant, which was for $1 million. $150,000 went toward the brownfield remediation, and $850,000 went towards the funds that Champlain Housing Trust needed to pull together to purchase the property at 20 Congress Street once it was finished. That's 30 affordable housing units. So basically, it's a grant that resulted in some brownfield remediation and 30 affordable housing units, but it was also a critical part of all the financing that we pulled together for Congress in Maine and all 3 buildings in creating the law. This final public hearing is a requirement of the VCDP grant. So we basically talk about what we use the money for, what I just did, open a public hearing, close the public hearing, and then we move to close out the grant.
Any questions of Chip?
Are there still units available?
I don't know for sure. My hunch is that there are no units available in either building right
That's what I
now.
thought.
That is,
I just wanted somebody to officially say that.
that is the case. There.
I'm officially saying that's my hunch. We could ask Grant. and
No,
see if she-
I've been told by both parties, Champlain Housing and Grant, that they have, neither one have any available apartments.
So we just need to see if there are any public comments or questions, and then we're good to go.
Anyone on Zoom have any comments or questions on this?
Awfully quiet up there.
And then we will also go to the audience. Anyone have any questions or comments relative to the VCDP grant? No one here? Okay. Double check Zoom.
Everybody in
Okay.
Zoom hears?
No,
No comments up there.
You can hear us.
okay. You're all set, Chip? That's it?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There's a doctor, I'm watching it.
Yes.
So we're going to move on to item number 9, which is starting with the mayor's report. And regarding Veggie Man, we're going to table that till November. We'll come back to that then. Couple things for me. I will pass around, I got a very timely email today from Janet at the museum relative to the, I would call it the Underground Railroad presentation that they put together. So they have completed it. People remember the city paid, the bill was $3,000 to initiate the Underground Railroad presentation, if you will, or research. I'll pass that around so people can take a quick look. They're going to, so there are panels that were paid for. They will be coming down here to City Hall to display in the main hall. There's 4 panels. Those are the ones you pull up, similar to what you might have seen on Prohibition here a while back. And then it'll go back to the museum for their 2022 season. This is something actually came out of a conversation that Ryer and I had when he first moved to town. So thank you for that. And I think this has some good information, and they'll take it to schools as well. So keep your eyes open for that. And thank you to the council for funding that. Chip, I had today someone contacted me. It seemed unusual, but some water bills on Kingman, I'm being told that they have increased significantly. And I don't think it was the case for everyone, but they may get some calls relative to, they said that the increase in cost was excessive, wasn't a, so.
Yeah, Kristen has spoken to 2 property owners on Kingman. One was a verified leaky toilet, and then the other thinks it might have been a leaky toilet, just worse than they'd originally thought. Those are the only 2 we've heard about that have been reported to us. So they're more typical reasons that your meter starts running. And just to put in a plug for the new systems and the new batteries, is that the new city system that Public Works is trying to install in everyone's basement will more closely monitor your meter, and when it starts to run fast, like something weird is going on, our system will flag it, so we'll be able to follow up more quickly with people. And it's typically a leaky toilet or some leak in the house that folks just haven't discovered yet.
Yep. Do we adjust? Do we adjust in those situations?
I think Kristen does. I can't.
I thought she did too.
We can find out, but we do talk to folks and work something out.
Next item I had was Congress Street sidewalks. Dom, kudos for the quick construction and implementation of those. I saw 2 or 3 people walking on them just yesterday. I think they'll be well received in the community and in that neighborhood for sure. They look great. I think the usage will be wonderful, so nice job on that.
Thank you. A similar sentiment from the select board, I believe, as well.
From the town?
Yeah.
Yep. Did they share a check with those comments?
I said it looks great, keep going.
We need to set those dates, so you're going to get another email out for the strategy session.
Yeah.
And then I just had another thank you for Mike Goslin, who renovated the house on North Main Street at the bottom of Brainerd, the gray house.
Yeah.
In my opinion, went above and beyond where he needed to in terms of cleaning out the backyard, planting grass. He did a wonderful job. So to Mike Goslin, thank you. That's all I had for now. We'll move on to the council reports, item number 10. We'll start over here with James.
Just nothing really to report. Everything's been pretty, except for the parking issue on the narrow streets that I've experienced, that we've already alluded to. There's nothing really that I need to address at this meeting.
Thank you, Jim. Marie?
Not much of anything, just that we felt it was important to carry on the tradition that Tammy DeFranco and her husband did for many years as far as the Halloween block party sort of thing. For 2 hours, they would cook hot dogs and distribute them to the trick-or-treaters. They'd come up and tell you what they want. She also served chili and nachos, and they blocked off their little street that they lived on. So it was always a well-received thing, and we thought, you know, now that they're gone, it's just kind of too bad to not continue that tradition. So we have a little planning get-together this week, and then, you know, we'll get whatever permits or whatever that we need, but
So you block off Elm Street?
that may be a problem. So she had the ideal setup because it was LaSalle Street, so it was a small,
Yeah.
and that's one hurdle that we'll have to figure out. But anyway, other than that, I have nothing else really to report.
Chad? Thanks, Mary.
Just a couple quick things. I think Chip and Dom know, Marty know, tractor trailer went down South Elm, ripped the phone lines off both my neighbors' houses. I think mine was saved by the tree pushing it up. So the tree was in it and saved mine. So just another instance. I wouldn't have probably even noticed if I didn't walk out and saw the line laying across the hood of my car. So something went down the street that's a little bit higher than normal. The only other thing is I want to thank Marty and the police department. We've had some issues in the park this summer, and it really escalated quite dramatically about a month ago. So we had a whole bunch of graffiti. I don't think it's related, but I don't think it's real at least, but it had to do with the Crips. So this is the 40 AGC and Avalon and all this stuff that's associated with the Crips. They wrote a number on the picnic table, so it was an IP address. So you went to a Crips website. So Marty, they spray painted trees, which you can't get spray paint off trees very easily. So they've been down there to take care of that. You know, we got the picnic table painted. The building got repainted where they'd spray painted the building. Lieutenant Weatherby was down there quite a bit, just checking on things. We had an instance where my son was walking through the park with a couple of his friends and was told that this isn't his park anymore and he needs to leave. So Jason's been down there. He's been it's done a whole 180 in the last 2 weeks. So very appreciative of that effort down there. So Marty's cleaned up the northeast corner. I think a lot of people were hiding out in there, so that's much better now. So it's kind of like a whole team effort down there. There's a few things I think will work to sign it. I think some cameras and some better lighting will help keep people out because it seems to be happening at night. But I saw someone down there, it looked like they were trying to fix the light on the pole, so that'll be good. So thank you very much. That's all I got.
Mike?
So, glad to have us pass the noise ordinance tonight. I'll say on Thursday night, I put a call in the dispatch because at midnight there was a silver Civic that had their license plates obscured, doing burnouts on the corner of Smith and Bank. And I just really think that like people in my neighborhood have continued to experience this. You know, got another complaint about neighbors with loud vehicles today. We've got the ordinance, it's really clear. The enforcement's gonna have to be there, and I know we've talked to the chief about it here as we've done this, but I just wanna really put in a plug that I hope that our SAPD will enforce this ordinance. This thing?
That looks like a Subaru.
That's a Subi. It's not that car. But I mean, they're not the only ones, right? There's a culture around making the cars loud, and you know, I don't know why people decided that Smith Street is the place to do burnouts, but you can see the rubber laid down on the white stop line at right on our intersection. So, you know,
It's slippery there, that's why.
yeah, it's super fun, I'm sure. But, yeah, boom. Yeah, so.
Sorry, Mike, I'm trying to learn how to drive standard.
Yeah, well, ever since the Sawyers moved up the street, it's been a real problem. No.
About that new Civic.
also wanted to say that Senator Brock approached me at our Joint Rules Committee hearing to look into, I know there have been some conversations around whether our hate crimes definitions are really up to snuff in state law, and I know as it relates to the airdrop incident at BFA and the McKenzie family, he's been talking with the family a bit, and I think the St. Albans delegation is going to get together to look at some of those statutes and to see if there are things that we need to do to update our statutes and have that be more responsive when those issues do come up, because I think we do have a real problem with, there are too many people in our community who think it's funny or okay to use really awful racial language and to use it to intimidate people. And, we're seeing it at multiple incidents at sports events all around the state right now. I just think it's really important for us to continue to as leaders in the community, to just say, we're not going to tolerate that stuff and nobody should be tolerating it. And, there's a difference between intent and impact. And I had some great conversations with someone who called me who really wanted us to get every kid's cell phone in the city, but I think that, we've got to continue to say what our values are, and we don't tolerate that kind of speech. And it could be that our state laws need to be updated in order to be more responsive. So we'll be looking at that in the next session. That's it for me.
Thank you, Mike. Bob?
Not too much going on in Ward 5. I did go to the presentation that you chaired up at Hardak at the Great Brown Lodge, where there was a good presentation about the trail revisions that are going on, and it just reinforces that that's such a tremendous asset that the city manages all this hill, and people are starting to use it more and more. And I think it's a good thing all around the pool, Great Brown Lodge, the running and cross-country trails, and the big trails, the higher trails up on all this hill. So I think it's going good up there.
There were a lot of compliments on social media about the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Good stuff on that sidewalk.
Yep. So.
Anything else, Bob?
No.
Tim? You're good?
Oh, I forgot one thing, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. One quick thing. Tomorrow, there is a virtual community conversation hosted by the Speaker of the House and the Senate Pro Tem. That's Franklin County focused, so they're doing different virtual conversations. It'll be at 5:30. I got the link to it posted on my Representative Mike McCarthy page, and it's on a whole bunch of other public sites. It's on Front Porch Forum if you're on that, but you have to register via Zoom. If anybody needs the link, get in touch with me, but would love anybody from the council that wants to attend, the public, want to have as many people there as possible. It won't be the last opportunity, but it's a good one. And the small breakout conversations that I've been to in some of the other regions are just great. It's really great to talk to people about how we spend, hundreds of millions of federal dollars once in a generation opportunity.
Marty, I had one thing. Was there a hazardous waste spill up at Jolly's
Yeah, diesel tank.
from a truck, or
Yeah.
how long did that take to get cleaned up?
Oh, that was a town event. They were there till 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay,
Motion to approve warrants 9/30/21.
Second.
wait a minute. We're moving on to item number 11. Okay, go ahead, Tim.
Okay, second.
Well, we have a motion and a second to approve the warrants from 9/30/21. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 7:32.